Querido señor González, presidente de la Fundación FAES, querido presidente Aznar, presidente del Partido Popular, querido Alberto, alcalde de Madrid, querido José Luis, eurodiputado Zarzalejos, querido Javier, distinguidos invitados, vicepresidente del Parlamento Europeo, eurodiputados y amigos. Siempre es un placer estar de vuelta en la maravillosa ciudad de Madrid, pero poder participar en este prestigioso campus FAES hace que mi regreso sea aún más especial. Thank you for inviting me to be with you today and for giving me the opportunity to speak to you about the renewal of the European Union, or what I like to call a new European age for our Union. Dear friends, I do not believe that it is an exaggeration to say that the past 5 years have been some of the most unpredictable in Europe. We have managed a pandemic, wars, an energy transition, migration, inflation, hybrid threats, and cyber warfare, all framed within an ongoing digital revolution, climate challenges, natural disasters, and geopolitical shifts. This did not happen by coincidence. It happened because we were able to take the difficult decisions, from standing up to Russia and supporting Ukraine, to ensuring our economies could recover, to passing groundbreaking legislation like that on migration. And I know that none of this would have been possible without the commitment of my Spanish friends and colleagues in the Partido Popular. Thank you, President Alberto Núñez Feijóo, for your leadership and your friendship. Thank you to Javier, to Esteban González Pons, Aisitono López Istúriz for the invaluable work that you all do in the European Parliament, together with the rest of the Spanish delegation led by Dolores Montserrat. Now let me say that I do not believe in politics being run by nostalgia. This is not what it is about. But I thought it important to outline our resiliency over the past years and decades in order for us to better frame today's discussion. Because in many ways, the European Union today is stronger, more united, and more in sync than ever before. And while we should be proud of what we succeeded to achieve, and we are, we must also be honest about where we could have done better, where we left people behind, where red tape has pushed people away, where we have gone too far, and where we have not gone far enough. In the last European elections, against all expectations, the constructive pro-European centre held, but we came out of it bruised. Increasingly, we are seeing the fringes meet on different issues. And to me and to many, Europe has always been about coming together, about hope in a better future, opportunity, and belonging. So it worries me when we see people, including our younger generations, finding comfort in the easy answers of the extremes, or worse, in the disillusionment of not voting at all. I am very much aware that there is a growing gap between what people want from their politicians, their representatives, from their European Union, from their European Parliament, and our ability to deliver tangible results. And when I'm asked about what do you think people want the European Parliament to do, what do they want from the institution that we all work to deliver results from so hard, I want people to look to the European Parliament for guidance, and I want them to look to the European Parliament for leadership. And in a world that is ever-changing, that is increasingly being compartmentalized, and shifts in politics becoming so much more pronounced, we need to be able to say, and we need to be able to do whatever we can to deliver a Europe that is more competitive, that is better able to harness all the benefits of the green and digital transitions without leaving anyone behind, that is able to ensure the right framework for innovation, entrepreneurship, and prosperity, that is agile. This is sometimes a contradiction in terms when we talk about the European Union, but it is important, that is agile enough to find a balance between innovation and regulation, that is able to reinforce our defense industry, that is able to guarantee security, that is able to safeguard human dignity, one that offers real, practical solutions to the challenges that people face. Alberto, you were referring to figures that we need to take into consideration very seriously. I traveled here often during the campaign in preparation to the European Parliament elections, and I would ask young people, what do you want to see as Spanish young people from the European Parliament? And the answer was very clear. We want a clean environment. We want quality jobs. We want a roof over our head. We want to make sure that the benefits that we are offered in cities are offered also throughout Spain, no matter how close you are to a city centre or far away from it. And that is our role now. That is our responsibility, to be able to fulfill those young people's potential and demands from us in this new world where we need to move closer on issues like energy, on telecoms, on banking, on capital markets, as we also continue to support, at the same time, nothing is mutually exclusive, the agricultural and fisheries sectors. And all of this implies significantly more funding. Now, of course, I know there is disagreement on how we can get there between member states and different traditions of finding solutions to such challenges. But I think we must not be afraid to take the necessary next steps, because this is a time for reform, for a renewal in the way that we do things. And for this, I give a clear and concrete commitment that the European Parliament is ready. I mentioned earlier that we passed legislation on migration, topical issue that is in the news every day here today. This is an excellent example of where the constructive pro-European centre can not only hold strong, but can deliver on an issue that is at the very top of voters' concerns. An issue that is also incredibly divisive, and where positions are tightly entrenched, often along ideological lines. But what we wanted to show in the last few weeks of our mandate, which was a very difficult one in the last 5 years, was that even if at times it looks impossible, even if it is sometimes very difficult, a true European answer is always within reach. Now, I spoke about the legislation. We need to move to the next step, implementation. And our focus needs to be that we ensure that such a legislative amount of huge legislation is implemented and it works for people in the Canary Islands who are under pressure, for Spain, for Italy, for Greece, for all countries that are faced with daily challenges. And our message from the European Parliament is that you are not alone. We are all in this together. And we have the legislative tools to build a system that is fair, with those who are in need of protection that is firm, with those who are ineligible, and that will be able to break trafficking models that exploit the most vulnerable people on the planet. Now, we need to build on it and focus on returns of those who are not eligible. I use this example as what I would call a triumph of compromise. It is a philosophy that we must also apply to our international relations. And here we know that we have a lot to learn from you, from the Mediterranean region to Central and South America and Africa. Your unique ties have meant that Europe is able to speak to the world and listen in a manner that enables common understanding and protects multilateralism while still remaining true to the values that are at the very core of what it means to be European. In this new European age, I think we will need a big dose of that. This is why the European Parliament was extremely clear when it came to post-election developments in Venezuela. Let me make it very clear here as well. When it comes to free and fair elections, upholding citizens' rights and defending our freedom and democratic values, the European Parliament will remain unyielding. Europe needs to do much more. Europe needs to do much, much more on this and further engagement with Latin America. Now, it is against this backdrop that a few days ago, actually a few hours ago, it feels like days, I was in New York City for the United Nations General Assembly. And there my message was to re-emphasize the need to renew our transatlantic relationship and to reinforce our alliance of global democracies on the world stage by seeking common ground. Now, critics may call this the politics of the past. I call it the very opposite. I call it the politics of the future. Because I believe that the only way that we can defeat populism, push back against extremism taking hold so quickly, is not by claiming moral superiority, but it is with real solutions, by building bridges and not walls. That is the new European age. So, dear friends, we have never been afraid of change. I have never been afraid of change, and Europe has never been afraid of change. This is our blueprint for the renewal of our union, and consider this, my words today and hereinafter, my and the European Parliament's invitation to join forces in moving forward. Muchas gracias.